Hello. All right, so I had promised I would start in time. I'm 5 minutes late. Oh, it's driving me crazy, so I've got to start in time. It's just my J in the Myers-Briggs personality. Close. What I'm going to do is I'm going to open with the prayer of self-dedication from the Book of Common Prayer. Then I will say a few things and we'll get right into it. Almighty and eternal God, so draw our hearts to you, so guide our minds, so fill our imaginations, so control our wills, that we may be wholly yours, utterly dedicated unto you. And then use us, we pray you, as you will, and always to your glory and the welfare of your people, through our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen. Okay, my name is Heather Walker Peterson. I am one of the co-directors of the Anselm Society and Arts Guild, along with Bill Filker over here. Bill is a visual artist. I am a writer, and actually I'm moving within 2 weeks. So we have another co-director. Marcus, would you stand up? Yay, Marcus. This is Marcus Robinson. He is a pastor, and he is a songwriter. So you will see his involvement a little bit, and then as we move on now with the Guild, you'll see his involvement a lot more. Now I'm going to introduce our 3 people for our panel. If you're here for a panel and workshop on social media and building your brand identity online, you're at the right place, and there's a few others who will be coming in as well. And we've got 3 experts. One you probably all know, right, and that is Brian Brown. He is the director of Anselm, and he is also the head of an organization called Narrator online, where he does consulting for nonprofits. What he does has to do with marketing, it has to do with online strategies and so on. The next person we have here is Leah. And Leah, how do you pronounce your last name? I was going to ask her.
It's okay, it's Apineru.
Apineru.
Apineru, it's similar. My husband's similar.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Thank you.
All right, so this is Leah. Leah runs her own consulting business as well, and she works with writers. And there's a handout back there which has got lots of great information for you. So if you didn't grab it, make sure you grab it when you leave. And then we have Kimberly Conrad, who works with artists. And Kimberly, what's the name of your organization?
Well, my online company is Where Art Lives.
Where Art
But I
Lives.
also have a consulting business.
Okay, as well. So we've got 3 great experts. Before we start with them, I want to say that we have another event coming up in April, and that is Diana Glyer. Some of you saw her recent book back there, which is for sale for $20. She is an expert on the Inklings. She talks about their collaboration. She's a marvelous speaker. So I think the date is, I got it here, April 9th at 7 p.m. She's going to be speaking and for the big lecture. But if you are a Guild member, and there are benefits, all right, for being the Guild, this is one of them. You don't pay to come to this event. You don't pay to be in the breakout workshop, and there's other benefits as well. There's also a workshop with her earlier in the day, so please don't forget that on April 9th. All right, so now let's go to the questions. Brian, why don't you take the podium? All right, so question number 1. We got these questions from the people who are currently in the Guild. We brainstormed them, we sent them back and forth, and these were the top questions we wanted to be answered. So, will it really help as an artist, a musician, a writer to be available online? Who will see our work?
Which is the obvious question to start with.
Right.
I actually, when I was thinking about that question, I read a book a few years ago. I don't know if any of you have read it. It's called Triumph of the City, and it's by Ed Glazer, who's I think an economist at Harvard. And he lays out in this book 10 things that he thinks characterize great cities. And one of them is that people who have a particular talent can grow because they bump into each other. There are clear avenues for them to find each other, to meet each other. They're probably sharing a room with a curtain in between some of the bedrooms if they're in Manhattan, and that occurs naturally in a healthy city. It's frankly not all that easy in most places though. It's hard to find people like you, it's hard to find artists who really speak to you, and the internet is something that my generation invented to, not the internet, but social media is something that my generation invented to try to deal with this problem. So who will see our work? Think of it as if you were to open up if you're a visual artist and you were to open up an art gallery downtown and put a sign out on the sidewalk, you've just established a platform and people can find you. The internet allows you to do that, but allows you to be a lot more intentional, a lot more targeted about who you want to walk by, who's going to appreciate your work the most.
So what is a platform online?
So if in real life, that platform would be that art gallery. It's your home base. It's your foundation. In the physical world, a platform could be literally a platform. This is my platform. You're all listening to me because somebody asked me to stand up here. And online, it's a digital replication of that concept. So it would be whatever combination of tools you're using online to provide that home base for your voice. So your website, it's social media accounts, profiles on particular online networks or communities. It's not instead of the real world, but it's a replication of some elements of the real world that provide that home base from which you can step out and be who you are and show people who you are.
I like the word replication. Okay, what is a brand identity?
I assume you all know who Thomas Kincaid is.
They don't want to know.
What phrase comes to mind when you think of Thomas Kincaid?
Light.
That's his brand identity. A brand identity is, if I were to ask someone who has encountered you or your work at some point, and ask them, who is that person? It's the sentence that they would answer that question with. Now the difference, I hope, between Thomas Kincaid and you, either you in the now or you in the sense of the aspirational you, is that Thomas Kincaid made a decision at some point in his career that the brand identity was going to be who he was. The word identity and brand identity is a little bit misleading, I think, especially from the perspective of the person whose brand it is. Kincaid made a choice. This is my identity. This is going to be the only thing, the only kind of thing I paint. It's going to be everything I am. And quite frankly, I'm going to sell out as an artist in order to push this brand identity and sell as many mugs as possible. In real life, a brand is more of a communications tool. It's a way, it's not going to be everything you are. You might think of Da Vinci as the Mona Lisa person or Edison as the light bulb person. Both of them did a zillion things, not remotely like light bulbs or the Mona Lisa, but that's sort of their brand identity. It's going to be a lot more to them than is encompassed in the brand identity. But the brand identity allows people to easily see, remember, and come back to some core piece of who you are. And you often make a choice. This is going to be the piece of who I am that is most important to me, that's most important for me to have other people know. So that's a starting point, anyway, thinking about what a brand identity is. You may paint lots of different things, write lots of different things, but if thousands of people, millions of people all over the world were to encounter you and have one shot at remembering you and wanting to come back and see more of your work later, what would that one key sentence be, that one key element be?
Okay, so we've got a platform. We're developing a brand identity, but we keep hearing this acronym SEO. How is your SEO? Would you define that and tell us what that means and just a tiny bit about how you go about it?
SEO is search engine optimization. Sort of. That's what the acronym means. Exactly what it is, what it looks like, how you go about it keeps changing. Especially on Google's end, because Google's always changing their products, integrating their products, finding different ways to rate your website in search results based on not just how relevant your website is to whatever someone's searching for, but also a lot of other factors, whether you use their social network, Google+, whether that's connected to your website. There's all these different pieces that go into it, but at the most basic level, search engine optimization it's not just what text do you have on your website, but have you done a little bit of homework on the back end of your site to make sure that someone who sees your website in a search result can instantly see what it is and have your website be the core text of your website be most relevant to the search results that people are using to find you, or that you want people to use to find you. So if you're a visual artist who deals in abstract art in some particular area, you may not want anyone who's searching for the word art to find you. That might get you a lot of traffic, but the wrong traffic. But if you want the right people to find you, as you're thinking about what are those core keywords, and you can actually do homework on this. There are tools. Google has one. There's another one called Keyword Spy that's free, and you can actually search for different keywords, see how many people are searching for them. How well does the core text of your website, the title, the header text, some of these different elements in the site relate to those core keywords? It's obscenely complicated in the way it actually plays out, but that's the basic answer to that question.
Okay. All right. So about 10 years ago, a lot of us were told that we all had to have a blog, and even 5 years ago. And now we're kind of hearing, instead of a blog, is a blog the best option? There's too many blogs out there. Should we be doing podcasts instead? So are blogs dead? And should we be doing podcasts?
Well, I'll be curious to see what the real panelists have to say on those questions. But honestly, I mean, digital tools for promoting your work are changing all the time, and if all you're trying to do is keep up with the latest one, you'll be exhausted very quickly, and the audience that you're reaching will always be changing, because the audience that uses Snapchat is not the same as the audience that uses Twitter, not the same as the audience that listens to a podcast necessarily. So if you're constantly evolving with the technology, just for the sake of doing so, it's going to be tiring, and you're not going to be reaching the target audience that you actually want to reach. When I'm thinking about different technologies and how they're evolving, I tend to think about what real life things, either temporary trends or significant things about human nature and how we actually think and work and value things. How well is this technology tapping into those things, real world things, permanent things, not always permanent things. So blogs. I do think that my wife and I watched the movie Julie and Julia a few nights ago, and in that movie, Amy Adams' character just gets online, sets up a blog, and starts typing. And over time, more and more people follow her. I think the days where that can commonly be done are perhaps over. You have to be more intentional with your brand. Why are you writing? Why should anyone care? But if you have a coherent identity and you have something to say that a lot of people value, and that you can actually think ahead, I think a lot of people would value this, and here's why. Blogs are still very relevant. Now, podcasts, audio formats in general, really good for commuters. I used to live in DC, and things that somebody could hold in their hand and read on the train were very popular. Not going to happen as much here. You have to actually make time to read stuff in a commuter environment when you're driving. So an audio format gets really handy. Or my wife and I just had our first baby, and as we're running around the house with a kid in our arms, something that we can listen to is very helpful. So thinking about who your audience is, what is it about this particular technology that allows you to do something that people value, that people want, either in a temporary sense or more valuably in a long-term permanent sense. What is it about being human, or about being human for this particular audience, that I can use this technology to speak to? I think that's really the core question for evaluating changing technologies.
So those are all the questions for Brian, who, by the way, is a very new dad. We're talking a week and a half. Okay, so the next set of questions, what we're going to do is we're going to vary. I'll ask a question, and then we're going to vary between Kimberly and between Leah, all right, so that you can kind of contrast and compare a little bit as you hear about sort of, this is for more visual artists and then songwriters, this is more for writers, and actually songwriting kind of goes into both of those, so I think that'll be helpful for both. And we're going to start with a big question, and we're going to start with Kimberly. So the big question is, right, and I left it as the author put it, okay, how should a Christian artist or writer approach online marketing in a way that does not leave us wondering if we're being narcissistic, self-promoting jerks?
That's a loaded question. So it is a question I get a lot. Leah and Heather have given me permission to take a few extra minutes on this question because it's critical, and it's one, as an art coach, I get all the time. I am an artist. I'm also a writer. I'm also a musician, write worship music, but I'm here today as a marketing coach. I paint, but I also own a company. We have 100 online sites and represent hundreds of artists, and I work personally coaching artists and other entrepreneurs. So how should a Christian artist approach online marketing in a way that does not leave us wondering if we are being narcissistic, self-promoting jerks? A Christian artist is a businessman or a businesswoman, just like any other business. You're going to approach marketing your work online as a business person. Now, this is really, really a difficult journey for many, but it's very prevalent in the Christian community. And I coach lots and lots of people that have trouble with this question. And I'm not sure why everybody does. I made myself a few notes here so that I can go quickly, though I talk fast anyway. I'm not sure why everyone has this problem. I know I was the worst case scenario of that type of person 10 years ago. So I'm going to very quickly just share how I made the jump, and my story does resonate with a lot of my clients. So I was a preacher's kid. My entire upbringing was around serving, ministry and serving and receiving nothing in return, right? Because that's what we're taught in ministry, at least in the Southern Baptist Church. It was all about ministering and expecting and nothing in return. So fast forward to about 10 years ago, I was just coming in to the art world online. There was one site out there for daily painters. It had only representational artists at the time. They wouldn't let me in. I'm in now, but it took me a long time to get in because I was an abstract artist. So with the permission and the blessing of the man that founded dailypainters.com, I started my own platform of small platform of blogs at that time, and invited artists to blog with me, free of charge, which quickly turned into teaching artists how to blog, free of charge, which quickly migrated into teaching artists how to photograph their work, how to edit their photos in their photo program on the computers so that it was appropriate for blogging and posting online, and teaching a lot of general computer skills, also free of charge. So 1 year into that, my husband, who was a United pilot at the time, had a heart attack and lost his job. And I was doing this 40 hours a week, this hobby of mine, working with artists on the phone, helping, teaching 40 hours a week. And so he lost his job, and we're trying to figure out what we're going to do, how we're going to make a living. We have 4 sons. 1 is in college, 3 in high school, getting ready to enter college. We visited, briefly, my going back to college, getting an education. I'd been home at that point raising children for 21 years, so it would have been starting all over, completely from scratch, which wasn't financially feasible because we had 1 in college and 3 getting ready to enter college. So a little more discussion and a lot of prayer. I turned what I was doing as a hobby into a job and a career. It was a very difficult jump to make, to start charging people for what I had been giving freely up to that point. And, I did lose a few people. I ended up, I have a great career now, a business where I mentor artists and entrepreneurs, and which is really my dream and my passion. It was a hard jump to make to start charging people. I'm gonna go quicker here. There's value in your gifts and your skills, your God-given gifts and skills. And why we have such a hard time charging for that, I don't know. Doctors don't say, oh, well, I'm a believing doctor, I'm a Christian doctor, so I'm gonna operate for free. I mean, there are, or attorneys, or, I mean, in any business, we have opportunities to give, nonprofit and to donate our time and our skills, but we all have to make a living. And we were all given God gave us, skills and gifts with which to make that living. And so you have to come to a place where you value the skills and the gifts that God has given you. And if you do not recognize and the value of those gifts, nobody else is going to. Okay? You get paid for the value you bring to the marketplace, which brings us back to how do I promote myself online without seeming like a narcissistic person. There are there are many sets of very clear strategies for building a business. It's the same for you as is for the next guy. Okay? The rules aren't different for you because you're a Christian. Business is business. What is different is when you're a Christian, Jim Rohn, one of my favorite mentors, has said over and over that you have to work, if you're going to be successful in business, you have to work harder on yourself than you do on your business. And that's where our faith and our foundation comes in. If we're spending that time in the Word, we're spending that time in prayer meditation, we're spending that time listening, we're not going to be a narcissistic jerk. So we're not going to come off probably like a narcissistic jerk. That being said, you're always going to have your critics, no matter what your business is, and promoting yourself online especially. You're always going to have naysayers and shoulders, people who are telling you it can't happen, it can't be done, not by you, or what you should be doing and how you should be doing it. And I was interviewed recently asking what I'm learning right now, what I feel like is the biggest thing I'm learning right now. And I continue to learn that you have to follow your dreams and be fearless and just look straight ahead and ignore the naysayers because they're always going to be there. So you have to have confidence in what you're doing, okay? Especially online, in any respect, but especially online if you're on multiple platforms. And like in any other business, you find your target audience, you clearly define who your audience is, and you come up with a business plan and you implement it. That's it. Yeah.
Can I just make a quick comment in that?
Yes, sir.
I think that as small business owners or artists, we tend to devalue
Absolutely.
the things that we do because we are so familiar with what we do.
Yes.
It seems like what we do, the knowledge we do, the services we give are ordinary. And the reality is that's only our perception. The perception,
Right.
it's much better.
You're not ordinary to the next guy.
The perception of our target audience, which doesn't have the skills that we do,
Right.
doesn't have the knowledge that we do, doesn't have the connections or the understanding of how things work the way that we do. And so if we put the value of what we do based upon what others think of our work rather than what we think of our work,
Right.
we will be much more full.
And that's why you be fearless, you look straight ahead, and you ignore the naysayers, because they're always going to be there. And again, you will have no success in business if you don't value what you do, because if you don't value it, nobody else is going to value it.
Would it be fair to say that an artist is their own worst critic?
Absolutely. I think we're all our own worst critics, but I think especially artists, musicians, writers, I'm all of those things, and yes, we are. Absolutely.
When we talked,
There was one more. Sorry. Yes, sir.
In a previous time, I actually functioned as a Christian physician, and one of my challenges was I did have a lot of people come to me that said, "Oh, you're a Christian, well then I really do want free care," and that was mainly Christians coming to me, not the average person. So I think it's a real challenge if you label yourself as a Christian artist. I also write with this fine gentleman. Then you might have to be prepared for people saying, "I really like your work and I'd like it for free." And how are you going to respond to that?
Sure you will. Yeah, my bio, my artist statement, mentions God in it, and I have a very strong online presence, and I get, and maybe lots of you do, but I get email after email after email from these people, oh, my dear sister in Christ, and a lot of scams, I mean, some of them are real pleased, but all of these scams addressed to, oh, my sister in Christ, I know your love for the Lord, and blah, 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 and I have money in this bank somewhere, and I need somebody to get it for me, and, I mean, yeah, absolutely.
I was just going to say at the last guild meeting, we ended up talking about critiquing ourselves as an issue and talking about naysayers and whether or not we should engage with them. And I mean, I'm really glad you brought that up as part of this. Yeah.
Well, constructive criticism is one thing, but listen, we all have our vision that was probably divinely breathed into us, right? There was probably some point that this vision for what you're doing, no matter what your job is, would breathe into you, and you knew that was what you were supposed to be doing. The people around you didn't have that experience. They did not receive that vision, and I will tell you that in my life personally, and in many of the people that I coach, some of the largest naysayers are your family members, are the people that are close to you, and it might be, they're well-meaning, they're coming from a place of their own failed dream, and so they don't, they want to save you that faith or whatever, and some of them can't have the faith in you until in your project until there's tangible evidence of success. And that's very difficult, because no matter what your business is, when you're building a business, there's often many, many years, for me there was, before there was tangible evidence of success. And so you have to, stay on your knees, really, I mean, honestly, stay before the Lord, be listening, and know that your path is the one that you're supposed to be on, and you just have to have blinders on. You do. Because the naysayers and the shooters will, put you right out of your dream and right out of business.
If you're not making money right now, you should be doing
Right.
I've heard that.
Take
from
some more time to
family.
make that.
So,
You have a real job.
Okay, so Leah,
I
you
just
have
had
a few.
petitions.
Should I repeat the question?
You're good.
Would it be better if you both just, yeah, maybe we'll just, we'll both,
Just stand and go back.
Yeah, let's do it that way.
So I'm just gonna piggyback really
Okay.
quickly, because 100% I agree with all that Kimberly has said. From the perspective of social media, purely social media, websites needs to communicate who you are, your spirit, your mission, your purpose, your brand. If it looks great, that's great, but does it communicate who you are? If it doesn't represent you, it will not succeed, and you will not feel like it's yours. So that's the number one thing I want to say to piggyback off of her. The second thing to piggyback is on Facebook, on Pinterest, on your social media platforms. This is where you won't come across as narcissistic or self-promoting. Honestly, you should have no more than 20% of your posts should be about promoting yourself and your product. I know that's a huge, whoa, surprise. That is an industry standard. If every post is about your book, about your website, about your art, about your blog, about whatever, people are going to get tired of hearing about you. So you need to come up with about 80% of other material, content, that is about you, the things that you like, that you want to share about others, about your community, about even your family a little bit, maybe go a little bit deep, just a little bit, depending on you and your comfort level. That will create more interest. People will get to know you a little bit more than just your product. So kind of, if there's one thing you take away, that might be the number one thing that you might want to take away, is just cut it down to 20% of your social media interaction should be about promoting yourself. That's just my personal preference and what I've read.
It's a tiny, I agree, it's a tiny bit different for art blogging. Art blogging, the purpose of art blogging is to get your name and your keywords in the search engines as many times a day, week, whatever, a month as possible. And so our artists, they post, a painting every day, pretty much every day on their
Well, a
blog.
blog is different.
Right.
Blog
Okay,
is all
you're
about
talking
you. I'm talking about social media. Social media,
Okay.
Facebook, Instagram,
Right.
Pinterest, Google Plus, things like
Well,
that.
still, they're posting a painting every day, they're posting, okay, we're going.
Yeah, no, that's it. That's all I wanted to say about that question. That was it.
But what you said, it kind of maybe leads into one of your other questions, but, where she was asking about content, well, maybe I should just
What
let you
question
get
is
there.
that?
Let's just wait, okay.
Okay, all right, so why don't you
yeah.
tell, or you're gonna find it? Okay.
Yeah, it was, is it important to be interacting and not just posting
Okay.
content on that, which what she said, is really good. I completely agree with that. In the aspect of blogging, art blogging, again, you're posting your painting to get your name and your keywords out there. But there are people, and this is probably true of musicians and writers as well, but there are people who collect art, and there are people who collect artists. And so they buy into who you are, what you do, they love your mission statement, they love who you are, what you stand for, and they just want to be a part of whatever you're doing. So it is important in blogging, or even, Facebook posts, things like that, to show some of your
coffee after her devotional. It was her next introduction to basically socializing for the day, and she would meet with her women online. And so she created that opportunity, and then she would create a morning post. And this is my morning wake up type post type thing. And she would then go and also reply to others. So you got to carve out the time and be strategic. Is this my time that I'm going to be doing my posting and replying, or is this my time that I'm going to go and find other places? Because while you're over here, it's easy to all of a sudden the web forms. So you just got to have your stop clock. You've got to really be structured with your time. And this is my 10 minutes. I'm going to go out and I'm going to find 5 new pages to like, and I'm done. I'm just going to go like them, and then they'll show up in my newsfeed. And then maybe at nighttime when you're watching TV, you're going to scroll through your newsfeed and, oh, this is an article I could share on my page. Boom, you're done. Like 5 seconds, you're done, because you've already put it in your newsfeed. So you just kind of have to break up your time. That's what I recommend.
I like what you said about she enjoyed it.
Yeah,
Did.
she enjoyed
It
it.
was like Brian was saying, it's like the human interaction.
Yeah, she found relationship online because she can't reach everybody.
And that helps me a lot, like enjoy it. Do it until you're not enjoying it, then stop.
Yeah, stop moving along, yeah.
And don't do what you don't enjoy. So that leads into my thoughts on that. When I coach people, I think the most important thing is to know yourself, to know what things you enjoy and what things you don't enjoy. And that way you can recognize, what things you want to delegate. You have to know what times of day you work best. For example, I need to be at my computer by 5:30 or 6 in the morning to do, 7 hours. Well, I personally do, 7 to 8 hours a day of administrative work and coaching calls. And so, if I'm through by 1 o'clock in the afternoon, I paint in the afternoon or evening. If I get to my desk at 9 or 10, because, whatever, I drag myself around in the morning, and I work till 4 or 5, I'm going to skip painting, I know, because my brain's mush and I'm tired, and, I no longer have the energy to do that. But the other thing is, there's no point in doing something that you hate. We can say, and with Leah, I teach my clients, what's your, when are you the most fresh? What's your most productive time of day just for your body clock? Because it's different for everybody. And so you help them to structure a very clearly outlined schedule based on what's appropriate for them. But there are things that you can tell artists or musicians or writers or any business person that they need to do that they're just not going to do. And so it's important to know what things you enjoy, and the things that you don't, delegate. Hire somebody. As artists, it's really important to have in situ or interior view images of your paintings. So you see people will post, I have an album on my website, and you see them on Facebook and wherever, images of people's work in dining rooms, and those are called in situ or interior view images. And those are really important for your portfolio. I can't stand to do that. I would rather put needles in my eyes. I have my assistant do that, and I would rather be painting or be doing a coaching session, with a client than doing that. And so
there's interns that want to do it for you.
and there are. And I don't really have any room, so I'm not trying to market myself here, but another part of my business that just absolutely took off a few years ago is the Fairy Blog Mother. I would do blogging workshops, I would coach people, and we would say, these are the things you need to do. I would teach them, they would understand, they would go home and they wouldn't do it. And I'd follow up and say, you're not blogging, you're not posting, what's happening? I'm a good teacher, I know you learned. And same thing, they would rather do anything than sit in front of the computer. So like me, besides me, there are many people out there that will do all of that for you. I have 28 clients that I personally daily do all their blogging, all their Facebook, all their Pinterest, their LinkedIn, their Google+, their social media, and there are many people, like me, and like Leah said, a lot of interns are looking for that type of work. It's great if you can pay them, but some will do it because they need the credit.
I haven't heard any comments on utilizing YouTube. what are your thoughts on what works best on YouTube? What kinds of things do you think, how do you approach deciding how you're gonna utilize YouTube and integrate it into all of this?
For artists or for writers?
Both.
Okay, well, from an artist standpoint, YouTube videos are great. People like to see you in your process, they like to see you painting, they like to see your space, what you're doing. So we use a lot of YouTube videos. We'll often attach them, you know, to see the process of this painting, click here and link it to that YouTube video.
For authors, it's mainly like if you have a publisher that's created an ad for your book, or if you're a speaker also, speaker segments are really good. We don't do a lot of heavy presence on YouTube. If you have video, certainly create a YouTube account. It's automatically connected to your Google+, so you already have a platform, you don't even realize it, with all of your videos on there. I would also highly recommend, if you're on Twitter, to check out Periscope, because it's actually much more popular. Looking at trends, if there's shorter snippets, I think YouTube is really turning towards a younger generation, and there's YouTube stars, and it's a whole different arena. I would not say spend time on it unless you have, only spend time on it if publishers or somebody else is giving you a video of your work, and you need to have a place to house it. I personally actually recommend Vimeo over YouTube, because you can actually do privacy settings. It's a much more professional environment. My personal opinion, Vimeo. V-I-M-E-O.
And I think for art, I still, YouTube, because art is visual.
Yes.
Art is
very
visual, so
different.
YouTube is a huge tool for art.
I just wanted to say, my creative business is video, and it also helps with your SEO.
Yeah.
If you have video,
Yes,
then,
it does.
especially YouTube, because they're part of Google,
Mhm.
Google is gonna notice that, and then your post or whatever it may be is gonna
Are you okay
get
with
ranked
going,
higher.
oh, I'm sorry. Are you okay with going a little bit over here? We're a little over.
Yeah.
So there's, say, I have one question there, and then I have one more for you, Kimberly. So Corey, ask a question, then we have one more for Kimberly, and then we'll do our breakout group.
The concept of a book trailer, that's probably, a lot of that is publisher driven stuff. That's, I was just gonna say that's another, video element to the other.
That's what I meant by book trailers. If a publisher's usually created them. Book trailer is the official term, but
Okay.
not in my mind. Yes, thank you for naming it. Yeah, or interviews, Q&As.
Right, yeah,
are really
there's the
popular too.
promotional type stuff too, but.
Yeah, and also on Instagram and Facebook, the little short videos are very, very popular now. So I see this much more for an artist. I don't know if a lot of you have seen like the quick cooking things that show up all of a sudden on newsfeed.
I
An
save
artist-
those.
I have too, but an artist could use that to quickly show the
Yes,
development
and
of
they
a
do.
painting. And so I think that that's where video could be really, really powerful.
Yeah.
I haven't really seen an avenue yet for authors to do videos on Facebook. Instagram is popular too. 20 seconds. 20 seconds.
Wow.
It's a very short, mine even need 20 seconds, but they're very short.
Okay, so there was a question, Kimberly, that you felt like was important to answer was that artists use hashtags differently from writers.
Oh my gosh, like hashtags. People have gone hashtag crazy. So hashtags were created for Twitter and Instagram, because that's how those platforms work. All the words are hashed, mashed, you know, whatever together. So now we're seeing artists, you know, I just had to contact one of our really good artists who's a teacher and should know better. But, you know, you just see a trend and you think, oh, I'll get more search engine optimization or whatever if I do this. Hashtags are fairly useless. Now, let me get through this whole thing. In Blogger or Pinterest or a Google platform. Because people don't Google, and like Brian said, you know, one of the things I do, one of my jobs is searching the trends and what people are Googling. That's how I keep my artists, you know, knowing what they should, the keywords and the labels they should be using based on their word. People don't Google, for example, abstract landscape or abstract sunset. They don't mash those words together when they put them in a Google search. Okay? So not only does it not help you to use hashtags on a Blogger platform or a Pinterest platform or Google+, well, Google Plus sometimes, is it can actually hurt you. On Blogger or Pinterest, you use your keywords, abstract landscape, comma, sunset painting, comma. Now, if you're using editorial in your blog, say you've posted your abstract sunset 28 by 45 acrylic on canvas, click here for purchase info. In your labels box, you're writing, you know, contemporary art, abstract sunset, blah, 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 okay, in your labels box. But say on that post, that's a day, say you're a color master, one of my clients is a color master, and 2 days a week she gives a color theory lesson on her blog. So then it's editorial, right? It's copy, it's editorial, which people do use hashtags when they're searching for copy or editorial. So say that's the day that you're writing your little lesson about color theory. At the bottom of the post, not in the labels box, but at the bottom of the post, in the body of the post, then it might be appropriately beneficial to say hashtag mixing greens, hashtag color theory. Okay, but as far as the labels boxes and the labels on Pinterest, it can actually have negative effects to use hashtags.
Good to know. Leah, do you want to
I
add?
can just quickly, if you're gonna use them on Facebook, use them very, very sparingly and only
Yeah,
just to kind of be fun. Don't use it for any type of searching.
Because people don't search for hashtags.
Right, but if you as an end user want to go see what is trending on Facebook, in the search box, this is called their geo search, is that what they're calling it? Mapping, geo mapping. You put it in the search box, you're gonna see everybody else's hashtags. So if you wanted to do abstract art, you'll see people that put hashtag abstract art on Facebook and other abstract art on Facebook. But people don't like, typical end users on Facebook don't like the hashtags, so use them very, very sparingly. Twitter and Instagram, absolute must use them all the time. And on Google Plus, there's actually a new thing that Google has implemented. It's a little complicated to explain, but if you add hashtags in your post, Google is going to think for the other end user. So let's just say you put abstract art. I put in abstract art, or I put in fine art. Google might say, oh, you might also like abstract art. I'm going to show you her post. And I'm like, oh.
Yeah, that's
So Google Plus is thinking for you as far as hashtag use. So I do believe that hashtag use is very, very important, especially if you're putting your artwork up there in your collections.
Right.
To use your fiction, like fiction giveaway, really big, or book giveaway, or fall fiction, or whatever you want to do for books. So hashtag use is it's a must on Instagram. All of a sudden, I'm getting people following me in a whole other business, and I'm like, who are these people? And it's because of the hashtags that I'm using that are trending. Instagram and Twitter will auto-fill your hashtags. Like if you're not sure what to call it, do I call it fall fiction? Do I just put in fiction? Type in hashtag fiction, wait for Twitter and Instagram to auto-fill that, and you're like, ooh, what are the top trends? Oh, fall fiction is a top trend, I'm using that one. So it'll think for you and help you with your hashtags. Facebook doesn't. Don't bother. Use it to search for yourself.
And use the ones they're giving you, because those
Use them. Don't create your own. Don't be creative with hashtags. Unless you're promoting your book and you want to do Solitude of Sorrow, do a hashtag Solitude of Sorrow because you're hoping people might pick up on it and start using it. That's the only time I say be creative with your hashtags. Google hashtags, meaning are they already taken if you're coming up with one's creative? Search for it first, see if it's taken, see what other people are saying about it. And if you're like, oh, I don't want to be associated with that, you're going to have to come up with something else. Maybe you do want to be associated with it. That's why you Googled it, to check it out. Okay.
All right. Well, that was a lot. I feel like I wish I had been taking notes. But
Each
not
question really is an entire workshop. Could be a one-day workshop.
Yeah, it really is. All right. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna give them a hand of applause. But as soon as we're done doing that, the people who are members of the guild are gonna go back. I'm gonna dismiss them to go back to the rooms. Okay, so that they can have time to quickly get out of here. Go back to the rooms. And then Leah and Brian and Kimberly will go with them, and I will stick around if you have any questions about the guild and you want to talk to me about it. So first, thank you so much.